Well, hello, strangers. I know it's been a few weeks, well, maybe closer to a month since my last show, but I truly needed a mental break, and I'll explain later on in the show, or as much as I feel that needs explaining or shared. Now, everyone needs one every now and then. You know, it was just so much going on just at once, and it's still stuff going on, but I'm feeling much better and really wanted to get something out there to y'all because it's been quite a few weeks since my last show. Now, most of the things I'll be discussing is news from the time that I've been gone, but I still wanted to give my unsolicited opinion on these things. I think I'm going to try to do another podcast sometime this week to cover some other things and to try to get back on track. This is podcast 21, so it's kind of nice to do 20 in a row and then take a little bit of time off and come back, because everyone doesn't do podcasts every week. But that's just something that I wanted to do. We'll just see how it goes, if I can get another one done this week. If not, we'll be back on track regardless. So let's just go ahead and sit back and get ready for the show. So it appears that they're making a movie based on the college admissions scandal, and I'm not surprised because it's glorified. It's being glorified almost in a sense. It's pissed a lot of people off. It involves celebrities and rich people and white people. So yeah, we're going to turn this effed up thing into a movie. And all while this is being glorified and soon to be glorified more in Hollywood, in the meantime, a black mother is still in jail for using her father's address, the grandfather of her children, or son. I can't remember if it was more than one kid, but I know for sure it was a boy, one of her sons. But she used her father's address so her kids could go to a better school in a better district. But this is turning into an entertainment and big fun, it seems like. And there's also a podcast called Gangster Capitalism, which I hadn't heard about until this happened. I don't know if it's a brand new podcast or if it just gained popularity because they're breaking down and talking about this college admissions bullshit. I'm listening to it. I'm not going to lie. I think it's like 4 or 5 episodes so far in this series, and it's actually pretty good. It's giving a lot more information. It's really just making all them look even more guilty. It's just showing how they were acting like they didn't know, but them and a lot of their kids knew what was going on. They're posing for pictures and, taking fake ass pictures like they're on the rowing team and soccer. And one guy, he got a kicking scholarship where he's never kicked a football for the football team, I should say. Never kicked a football day in his life. They are acting like they thought that all this money was going to a charity, but they were more worried about their taxes and getting caught, than anything else, and not about what their children are going through, but of course themselves. So it's actually very good. Again, it's called Gangster Capitalism. It's a podcast. I support podcasts, love podcasts. So there's that. So T.I. was pissed at TMZ. And I'm just like, why now? And I understand because it's affected him personally. But TMZ, recently showed the murder. They were the first ones to show the murder of Nipsey Hussle. And no one came out and said, oh, let's boycott TMZ now. But since this affects her. But that's what I say about people. They don't get this upset. They don't get ready to make change and call for change until it affects them personally. And that's what really gets to me. That's what really bothers me. But I completely understand why T.I. was upset. So for those of you who don't know, a couple months ago, T.I.'s older sister, Precious, who was featured on his television show, he and Tiny's television show, passed away after a car accident. Now, they figured that there was more to it because something caused this car accident that she had, or possibly could have. That's what they were thinking in the first place. So, of course, the family had an autopsy done and all this other stuff. Someone messy I think that in Georgia, Georgia's one of the states where this stuff is public. Like, you can go and look up and see marriage certificates and birth certificates, things like that. And as well, death certificates. I think Georgia is one of the states where it's public, so anybody can see it, if I'm not mistaken. So T.I. TMZ took it upon themselves to report on a family still mourning about a sudden and tragic death of their loved one, that she had cocaine in her system. Now, they didn't say it was that she died of an overdose, nothing like that. They just said that she had cocaine in her system. Okay, did she have cold medicine in her system? Did she have allergy medicine in her system? Did she have painkillers in her system? I mean, why did y'all just focus on cocaine? Because we know why. We know why. Regardless if she did or didn't, that wasn't y'all's place to tell. And I don't care if it's a celebrity, the family of a celebrity, people knew this person because she was featured on a television show that involved her family and all this other stuff. You don't do that. But TMZ is so effed up and so worried about getting the information out there first to get these clicks, because that's what it's all about. It's about the clicks. How much traffic can I get to my website that's going to keep us generating money, which that's how people who run websites, trust me, I know, that's how you make a little bit of a coin. You know, you get traffic there, there's advertisers, all this other stuff. You know, that's how they make their money. And TMZ is one of the bigger ones for like the last, 10, 11 years that TMZ has really been around and popular. T.I., he cussed out Harvey Levin. He's telling everybody to boycott TMZ. If you're someone who knew Precious, who knows the Harris family, you know, if Precious touched your life in some kind of way, if she mentored you, educated you. I think that did he say the Deltas? I think she was a Delta. He said Deltas, you know, unsubscribe, everybody, you know, pretty much his fans of Escape. He told Escape not to talk to nobody. He was pissed. I think he was more hurt than anything, because as I said, regardless if this is true or not, this was not business to tell. And they knew it was just going to get clicks because T.I. is one of the more popular people out here. People knew of his sister. And when his sister got in a car accident and when she passed, it was news. But that's what they do. That's what they do. They just deal in mess. And don't get pissed when it just happens to you, but just, I don't know, but I totally understand why T.I. was so hurt by this and why he was pissed. I totally get it. But I still think you're full of shit, T.I. So DJ Khaled done threw a temper tantrum because his album was not number one. He, of course, is blaming the record label for not supporting hip-hop acts, where his label mate Tyler, the Creator, had the number one album, actually. Then he went back when that was brought up that Tyler, the Creator, had the number one album. He came back and said, well, the record company didn't support me. I mean, dude, you've been promoting this album since Assad was born. You had everybody and their mama on it. It's good. I like it. I listened to it a few times, but I mean, it's okay. It's a typical DJ Khaled new era hip hop rap type thing. I mean, it's nothing big. It's a good album, as I mentioned, but I do like Tyler, the Creator's album better. I do. I just do. You know, and that's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. But you had all of this, you know, I mean, see, here's the thing about DJ Khaled that gets on a lot of people's nerves is that he just talks so much and about nothing. You know, you can't get mad at your record label. You're DJ Khaled. You know, you should have, I mean, they don't really have to do all that stuff because you're out here all over the place, you know, promoting, doing this, that, and the other, where yes, it is the record label's responsibility, but you're out here doing, I mean, you've been talking about this album, as I mentioned. How old is Assad? Is he 2 or something like that, or going on 2 or whatever? You've been talking about this album since then. You've been working on it since then, and it's a good album. Be happy with that. Be happy with the collaborations that you got on this album, you know, because we know you don't produce anything. All you do is just get on there and yell and get the artists together. That's all you do, but you're still making a nice coin. You're still, you know, you can't be number one all the time. You know, it just seems like so many people are forgetting this nowadays. We were taught back in the day, especially, that you can't win everything, but apparently you feel that you should or can or whatever, but it doesn't work that way. So get over yourself, get back in the studio, whatever you do. We still don't know what you do, except for yell, we the best, you know, but that's a whole nother topic. Get back in the studio and try to beat the album that you did now, or try to beat out Tyler, the Creator, and become number number one next time. That's all you had to do, sis. That is it. And quit harassing Assad. So Christopher Darden, of course, the attorney from, most famously known from the O.J. Simpson trial, and he's still practicing law out in Los Angeles County. But remember after Nipsey Hussle died, he took on as the defense attorney for Eric Holder, who is accused of killing Nipsey Hussle. But he's no longer representing Eric Holder. And I guess he feels like, it put his family in danger. His daughter was getting death threats and all this other stuff. And I'm sure he and his staff and everything. I'm pretty sure that happened. But it's too late, sis. I mean, I know every person is entitled to representation. They're entitled to a trial and everything like that. But you know why people had a problem with this. And it wasn't only just the fact that Nipsey was so loved and that he was killed the way that he was killed, but it was the main fact people had a problem with you taking this case because the way you went in on OJ when there was really no proof that he killed Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. There was no video. I'm just going to say this. There was no video cameras. You didn't see OJ running from the scene. You didn't see OJ standing over shooting to kill someone execution style. And that's what happened with Eric Holder. People saw him. He's on video, but you were so devastated and everything like this about OJ Simpson. So I think that was my problem. I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm pretty sure that was the issue people had. It wasn't necessarily the fact that you represented someone who killed someone famous, allegedly, but it was because of where you gained popularity and how you became known was a specific trial that pretty much you said in so many ways destroyed you mentally because you just knew that he was guilty. That's fine. A lot of us think OJ's guilty and he did it or he has something to do with it. That's perfectly fine. You can feel that way, being the attorney or not. Or I should say the prosecutor that prosecuted the case. But what was so different about this one? Okay, I didn't think so. So like I said, it's too late, but oh well. Peace and blessings, sir. And Trump, y'all's wonderful president, has held off on the production of Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill. Now, he's saying that it's indefinite. Some people are saying they're just holding off until 2020, which of course is next year, which I don't see them doing that. But we know why he's holding off on it. He doesn't want her on there. What did he say? He said, why would anybody want that face on the $20 bill? And also, he loves Andrew Jackson's racist ass. That's another reason why he probably doesn't want to replace Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. But it's another race thing, and of course his supporters who say that he's not racist or anything like that, or nobody in his administration is racist, of course they're making up some kind of excuse, talking about, well, it's not in the funding, it's, it can be something that doesn't need to be done right now. Of course there's all these 50 million excuses, and so as of right now, Harriet Tubman will not be on the $20 bill. So the girls and some of the guys are pissed because Trey Songz done popped up with a baby the other day. Now, I mean, we don't know for sure if this is his baby, but pretty much it is. He didn't come out at the time and say this is his baby or anything like that. But from the pictures and everything, we could see that it was. And I just think it was too cute. Allegedly the word is that the mother is a porn star. Now, I don't know if from the last few weeks when this came out, if the mother was revealed or anything like that. But at first they were saying that the mother is a well-known porn star. This is what I want to address. And, congratulations, Trey Songz. Congratulations to the mother. Congratulations to your mother for becoming a grandmother. All those things. Okay. But what's up with these male celebrities having babies with porn stars? I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it. It just seems like they talk about all these groupies and everything like that, but you're going to sit down and lay down and, take the risk of getting a porn star pregnant. Now, this is my philosophy on why a lot of these male entertainers mess with porn stars. I think it's because it gives them an excuse to sleep around, because, well, that's what porn stars do. That's how they make their coin. It's not the same thing. That's how the girls are out here making their money. They're porn stars, and guys too, but that's how porn stars make their money. They make their money entertaining the masses having sex. That's what they do. No, sir, you're just a slut. If you want to have, this is just, again, unsolicited opinions, but that's the only thing I can see why all these top name producers, rappers, musicians, musicians, actors get involved with porn stars. Now, there's nothing wrong because porn stars are, that's their job. That's what they do, and you know what you're getting into when you deal with these porn stars. Now, we know that allegedly they may feel comfortable or a little bit more comfortable sleeping with the porn star because they're supposed to get tested on a regular, or they should get tested on a regular. And maybe that's why they always end up pregnant, no protection. That's all I can really think of, but it's just, I don't understand. Porn stars are people too. Don't get me wrong, but don't be out here talking about groupies and this, that, and the other, but you're just sleeping around with whoever you want to and apparently unprotected or whatever because y'all are having babies now. But that's just my unsolicitations. So the fashion label Gucci has done it once again. They're out here culturally appropriating and now selling $800 turbans that are worn by Sikhs for centuries. And of course, white folks are now taking credit for this brand new fashion trend. Here's my thing. Y'all want to wear it as fashion, but when an actual Sikh person wears one, you want to label it as, or label them as a terrorist because they have on this head thing that you don't know what it's about and what it truly represents. When a Muslim man or woman wears a hijab or has something covering their head, a turban, whatever, y'all want to label them as terrorists. But now you're selling the same exact thing. Well, not the same exact thing because it doesn't have the same meaning, but you're selling turbans for $800. Okay. And then, of course, like with cornrows and Timberlands and all this other stuff that minorities have been wearing for years, white people now want to make it fashion and take credit for it. And then you wonder why people are so pissed off at cultural appropriation and all these other things, which, speaking of which, I had to block this page. I think it was a page from London who constantly kept requesting me on Instagram, and they had people of all races and everything like that, but it showed them like culturally appropriating different things and saying that we're all one and everything like that. And the concept was good, but I just don't get with cultural appropriation in any kind of way. If you're going to do something, like if you're going to wear a dashiki, give the Native Americans some credit, or don't make it seem like, oh yeah, I brought this to the forefront. If you're going to rock some Timbs, unlaced or whatever, give the hip hop community some of that. Give the New Yorkers some of that because that's what made those shoes that were intended to be work boots. That's what made them popular, was the hip hop community that so many of them looked down upon. Okay, if a black girl was walking around here, or a black man, black boy, whatever, they were walking around here, but black person, let's say that, was walking around here with cornrows, then they would be looked at as ghetto. A white person does it, it's cute, and this is all this trendy hairstyle and everything like that. That's why people get upset. That's why people get pissed about stuff like this. And the longer that white people, or even black people, anyone who doesn't understand all this mess that's going on, doesn't want to discuss it, doesn't want to even acknowledge it, you're more of the problem than the people who are actually doing stuff. And that's all I'm going to say because I can go on and on about a topic like this, but let's just keep it right there. So Gucci, and they had some other, I can't think of what else it was, but they had something else either around this same time or before where it was, I can't remember. But anyway, it was another, I want to say religious garment that they tried to turn into fashion and stuff like that. It may have been a hijab. It may have been something that resembled that. It wasn't an actual one, let's keep it real. But it was something, I can't remember. But anyway, just stop the bullshit. And if any of y'all are out here, which I know there are going to be people buying this shit for $800, girl. Now, dear Steve Harvey. Now, Steve Harvey has been having not a very good time. Not a very, a lot has been thrown at him at once. And a lot of people are saying, is it karma for the way you talk and the way you've treated people in the past and probably still current? And he and his wife are about to have a book written about them, mainly his wife, Marjorie. Her ex-husband, who was also the cousin of her other ex-husband, is planning a tell-all book. And it's going to have all her business going on through it. So it just seems like when this came out, Steve Harvey was, okay, now first his talk show wasn't going to be renewed. They were canceling his talk show. And of course, they're making it a big deal, having a talk show, replacing it with Kelly Clarkson, which in my opinion, I'm sorry, I would rather watch a podcast with Kelly Clarkson. I'm sorry, not a podcast. I would rather watch a TV show or listen to a podcast, I should say, with Kelly Clarkson than with Steve Harvey. I'm sorry. I would, I don't know, but they're still wondering if he's going to have his contract renewed for Family Feud. He was also fired from, well, of course, they're not calling it a firing, but pretty much it's a firing from the show that he does with the kids. I can't never think of the name of it, but they didn't renew his contract. That's what they're saying for that show as well. But Steve Harvey, I mean, now I don't wish bad on anybody. I don't. But Steve Harvey has done a lot of messed up stuff to people publicly, and he's turned into someone who is just fake. And I remember maybe about 10 or so years ago, I used to listen to his morning show. Now, I wasn't always a big fan of Steve Harvey, but I listened to his morning show. This is when internet radio was real popular. This is before we had all that other stuff. So I would go to WBLS.com and listen to his radio show every morning, and then I would listen to the Wendy Williams Experience. So that shows you how long ago this was. Wendy Williams was still on radio. But I actually did kind of like his radio show. Like I mentioned, I was never really a big fan of his, but I did like his radio show. And it was mainly his co-host that I really liked. But I've always had to give Steve the side eye on so many things that he's done and continues to do. But, I mean, okay. So before these firings or whatever you want to call it happened, he once again gave his unsolicited advice. And, I mean, we all give unsolicited advice. I mentioned it in the interview. I do it as well. But he's on a bigger platform than me. I don't know how many people. I don't have nearly, probably not even a 20th of the people who listen or watch him then listen to my little podcast. But I want to touch on another thing that happened with him, and he was talking this bullshit saying that he knows why broke people stay broke, and it's because we sleep too much. Now, how is that a thing? So basically he's saying that if you sleep like a normal person, and he's basically saying if you sleep more than 4 hours a night, you're not going to get done and you're going to continue to stay broke. Now, so basically rich people don't sleep. Is that what he's saying? No, I'm sure a lot of them don't, but I'm pretty sure he sleeps like a baby because he's the type of person that makes money in his sleep because he's on contracts. Okay. Now, if he was running his own business or something like that, which I'm just talking about like if he was a straight businessman, not an entertainer / businessman. But if he owned his own business and that's the only way he got his money, yes, I can see you not getting much sleep because the moment that you slip, your money's done. But rich people aren't out here making moves 24/7, but apparently to him they are. And of course, he quoted the Bible, so that will make it legit, of course. I mean, stop it. He was telling people on the West Coast to wake up when people on the East Coast wake up. I mean, come on now. It's just a time change. It's not going to do anything. Just because it's 9 o'clock here and 6 o'clock in the morning there, it doesn't mean that they're losing out on anything, okay? Because there's a reason why there's that time change and why there's Pacific time, Mountain time, Eastern time, Central time, all this other stuff. There's a reason for that, okay? And it has nothing to do with money and business. It's the way that the universe works. I'm just going to say that. I mean, that has nothing to do with it. So if I lived in California, I'm not going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning when a lot of people get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work and stuff. I'm not going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning just because it's 6 o'clock on the East Coast. That was stupid. And, he's basically saying sleeping is wasting time. Now, I'll tell you what's wasting time. Wasting time is not 3 to 5 hours of sleep. If I get that every night, that's even questionable for me if I get 3 to 5 hours of sleep every night. But watching your shows can be called a waste of time. Reading your books, watching your movies, anything that you're out here doing could be considered a waste of time to people. But of course, you're not going to say that because you need that coin to keep coming in. But in the thing, after all this, Steve Harvey's going to be fine. He's going to be good. He has money. Hopefully he's done good. And hopefully when Marjorie divorces him because he's not making the money that she wants him to make anymore, that she feels that she deserves, hopefully she won't rake him over the coals and bankrupt his ass. And that's allegedly. I'm not saying they're divorcing or nothing like that, but We know how Marjorie moves. But Steve Harvey, cut it. Just cut it. Oh, Pat Houston, girl, you've become one of my favorite people just to get it together. Just to, I cannot stand this woman. For someone who I've never met, I really can't stand this woman. And it's because she's evil and greedy. And I'm going to play y'all a clip in a little bit. Hopefully it will come out. You'll be able to hear it. But it's a clip of Pat Houston. She was recorded by somebody. She was having a conversation about the differences between her daughter and Whitney and Bobby Christina. Mind you, this was after Bobby Christina and Whitney Houston both had passed away, that she had this conversation with somebody, and they recorded it and they submitted it to the blogs. But anyway, let's just talk about Pat Houston for a second here now. Pat Houston, girl. So now she wants to do a hologram tour. Not just a hologram, but a hologram tour of Whitney Houston. She wants to send Whitney Houston on tour as a hologram. This is what we're not going to do. First of all, let Whitney rest. You're the one that's not letting her rest, okay? And I wish Sissy Houston was younger. I wish that because I know that she would be the type of person to gather you together. But she's too old. She's lost her daughter. She's lost her granddaughter. She just doesn't have the energy for this, okay? But that's what we're here for. Now, you've been doing all of this stuff since Whitney died. And from what I'm understanding is that Whitney never really cared for you, and you knew that, but she hired you as her assistant or whatever you were, because assistant manager, whatever the hell, because you would be bringing money into her brother's house. And Gary Houston, for you to allow this stuff to happen is just shameful. It's shameful. I don't know what Pat has on you, but there comes a time when you have to be like, okay, this is enough. That's my sister. That's my niece. And they are no longer here to defend themselves. What is up with everybody doing stuff, that just doesn't make any sense, that y'all know the person who is deceased would not want this to happen, but you're going to do it anyway because they're not here to stop you. I mean, oh my gosh, I wish Whitney would have had another child or a more responsible sibling, something that would fight Pat Houston and take her off of the estate as the executor of the estate or whatever the hell she is, because all she's thinking about is making money off of Whitney Houston, and this is not the way to go about it, girl. I'm pretty sure Whitney has unreleased songs. Maybe she doesn't, but I'm pretty sure she has something. You can re-release some of her older albums and put bonus tracks on there that we haven't heard. I think there is a CD of her live performances, okay. But there are other ways. If you're desperate for money, which you shouldn't be, there are other ways to preserve Whitney's legacy, and this is not it. So as I said before, what you're not going to do is you're not going to put Whitney Houston on tour as a hologram. And thank goodness for Dionne Warwick for putting Sissy on blast publicly and saying that this is stupid. It's a stupid idea and Whitney wouldn't want this. But Pat Houston is always just doing something shady, just something just stupid. First, she sells all Whitney stuff. I mean, there are things that she's done before since Whitney passed away and since we really knew about what Pat Houston was about. She sold pretty much all her stuff in an auction, which we know where that money went. From what I hear, allegedly, she's the one that was making sure that Bobby Christina wasn't eating while she was in the hospital fighting for her life. When people were telling her that she needs to eat, but she was making sure that she wasn't eating. And I'm pretty sure we all can figure out why. In that Whitney movie that shouldn't have been done, or whatever it was, I'm calling it trash. I still haven't watched it and don't plan on watching it. But when you and Gary came together and threw two deceased people under the bus, saying that Dionne Warwick's sister, who had passed away years ago and was a lesbian, was an open lesbian, that she molested Gary and Whitney. Whitney's not here to defend it. Yeah, Gary's going to say whatever to support you and to get this money. That's what he's going to do. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, but why did it have to be a deceased relative, and why did it have to be the lesbian one? That was the easy way out, I mean, and then now this, you better not go through with this. You better not do it. I'm telling you right now, you better not do it. Before I get more into our crazy cousin Dionne, I am going to play for for you the clip of Pat Houston talking about Whitney and Bobby Christina. And what happened is her daughter accidentally recorded this conversation on Facebook Live. And I guess it was one of Whitney's nephews. I'm not sure if it was Michael's son, I don't even know if he has kids, or if it was Gary's son from his previous relationship, his previous marriage, I should say, because Pat Houston did steal Gary from his wife. But anyway, he recorded the recording of this conversation, and that's how we got a hold of it. So hopefully you can hear it. You may have to adjust your volume. I've tried to do things on this end, and it still just sounds the same. So get into this.
That's right. Confident in what you brought to the table. Of course, that line said Houston will never be your runner. It's too far going. It's far going to
yes, if I could keep this right. Yeah, everybody's thinking about it.
Because I don't think that a person appreciates what you contributed to the good and the success. She did, but no one else, well, an outsider don't know better. You know what I'm saying? The only thing they hear is that. When they say that Ray and I trying to be like Whitney and Tracy, and I'm like, my daughter graduated high school. My daughter was in college. Our girl got to the 7th grade. Are you kidding me? Go screw yourself. Ray's father drove her. Her mother took her to school every day, but she was in school. Ray hardly ever rode the bus. Since her father took her to school.
Scott isn't in Savannah.
Bobby never took Chris to school.
Scott's in Savannah.
They never had no interest in that. That's what I'm saying. So you have more of the mold of the normality. Just being a person that just looked at that whole situation with open mind. I never at one time believed any of the allegations. I'm just letting you know that right now. I just never believed any of the allegations about the more sinister stuff that they were, they were putting out. I was just like, man, that's it. That's right. Confident in what you brought to the table. Of course, that line said Houston will never be your runner. It's too far going. It's far going to
yes, if I could keep this right. Yeah, everybody's thinking about it.
So,
Speaking of crazy cousin Dionne Warwick. Now, y'all know I love some Dionne Warwick. She's one of my favorite singers of all time. I listen to her greatest hits, I don't know how often, way too much. And not only that, she's my spirit animal. I can see myself being Dionne Warwick when I'm in my 70s. I'm just saying. Or is she in her 80s? Whatever. I can see myself being Dionne Warwick. So there we go. Last week or the week before, I can't remember, all this shit has just been running together. But Dionne Warwick, quote unquote, came for Beyonce, which she didn't. It appeared that way. And of course, the Beehive took it to somewhere that they didn't need to take it, of course, as usual. But anyway, so Dionne Warwick was asked about, and I don't know if she was specifically asked about Beyonce, and if she was, she fell right into the trap. But then again, what people need to realize, Dionne doesn't give a damn what you had to say, what you think, whatever. She's going to say what she wants to say. Okay, we got that straight? All right. But they were talking about legends and icons and all this other stuff, mainly icons now. People take the word icon too lightly, too loosely nowadays. There are so many people out here that are labeled icons that should not be. So she specifically was talking about Beyonce and saying that Beyonce hasn't paid her dues. She hasn't been in the business 40, 50, 60 years like some people have. Of course not. She's only, 37, 38, whatever she is. So she was basically saying that she hasn't paid her dues, that she still has some time. She's saying, I'm not saying that she can never be iconic. Right now, she's not. As much as I love Dionne, I'm going to have to disagree. Beyonce is definitely an icon. She's been in the business for over 20 years. Let's just put that right there. She was one of the members of one of the most top selling girl groups of all time. I want to say they may be in the top 3. I'm not sure which order they go in, but I know it's the Supremes, TLC, and Destiny's Child are like the top 3 girl groups of all time. That's wonderful company to be in right there, because TLC are icons and so are the Supremes. Okay. And she was comparing Beyonce to herself, Gladys Knight, Elton John, all these people that have been in the business forever. They're old. I'm not being funny. They're older. They're older than Beyonce. So of course they've been in the business longer than she has. Yes, they're all iconic, including yourself, Dionne. You are an icon, but you had to remember that when you were in the business for even under 20 years, when you first started working with Burt Bacharach and had all these classics just under your belt as so early in your career, you were already labeled an icon. Beyonce has changed the game in so many ways. And I'm not even going to get into, I'll get there in a second. She's the best living entertainer that we have today. Many people are calling her the Michael Jackson of our generation, which I'm going to have to agree. Now, we're not saying that she's Michael. We're not saying that she's better than Michael, but to put it on an even surface, in a sense, yeah. And let's compare her to Michael Jackson just a little bit when it comes to being iconic. Okay, yes. At the time Michael became an icon, pretty much, he was already in the business for a while, yes. But also that was a different time, okay? It was a totally different time back then to compare to how everything works now. That's another thing that, and even myself included, that's another thing that a lot of these older celebrities have to get used to, is that it's a different time. Things are done different. Things are done quicker. You know what I mean? And these celebrities nowadays had to work a little bit more harder in a sense and keep themselves out there a little bit more, because people will forget about them because the next great thing will come along. It wasn't really like that back in the day, and it's still not like that. Okay, Gladys Knight can come out with an album 15 years apart and people will still be like, she's an icon because that's Gladys. Okay, so let's just talk about that. But let's compare a little bit of Beyonce and Michael Jackson. Hell of entertainers. 2 of the best to ever do it. They both can sell out stadiums. Not concert venues, not amphitheaters, stadiums. Okay, sell out. They have crazy ass fans who will do anything for them, who will fight for them to the death if they need to. Beyonce has changed the way that you look at performing for this generation. She puts on a full elaborate show, which we haven't really seen since the 80s and probably more the 90s, when Janet and Madonna were like at the height of their career as entertainers, because they put on theatrical performances pretty much. And that's what Beyonce does. And all you had to do is watch some of these behind the scene documentaries or whatever of Beyonce putting this stuff together and just realize how hands-on she is and how dedicated she is to topping what she did last time. So So those are just some of the similarities between her and Michael Jackson when it comes to being entertainers. Now let's talk about how Beyonce has also changed the game. Fashion-wise, she has changed the game. She's also changed the game, streaming-wise or whatever you want to call it, because remember, what was that, like 4 or 5 years ago when Beyonce came out with that surprise album, the Beyonce album, self-titled, I think that's what people call it. When she came out with that at midnight and no one knew, like it just started popping up on people's iTunes, and everybody on Facebook and everything was talking about it, myself included, because I was like, I've never seen this happen before, where someone just releases an album and it wasn't only just an album, it was a visual album. So you had all the songs and you had a video to go with each and every song. Now you see all these musicians and stuff like this doing quote unquote surprise releases and doing the visual albums, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's setting a trend. Beyonce has, followed trends as well, but she's also led her own path. And now anybody knows me knows I'm not a huge Beyonce stan, but I'm a Beyonce fan. I have been since Destiny's Child. And I'm always going to give, and even if I wasn't a fan, I always give people their props when it's due. So I've rambled on enough about this. Beyonce pretty much has solidified her place as an iconic status. I mean, there's no argument with that. Now back to Dion real quick. I get what Dion was saying. Don't get me wrong. She comes from a different time. She had, has been around and herself. They had to work pretty much from the bottom up. A lot of these artists, they're already thrown in there. They're just thrown into the fire. Destiny's Child was not one of those groups. Destiny's Child did work from the bottom up. They did talent shows. They did Star Search. They did, all these, all the training and all this other stuff to become that bomb-ass girl group that they turned into. Regardless of the problems that they had within the group, they still maintained the status that they set from the beginning of their career. So, Cousin Dion, I get it. What you said just wasn't true. It wasn't true, and these are facts. I'm sorry. You can disagree with me all you want to. You could say, oh, she hasn't paid her dues and everything like that. I mean, that's just a hater in you. That's just all it is. It's just not wanting to give someone their just due. Let's give people their flowers while they're here instead of when they pass away. Beyonce deserves that. Beyonce has done a lot. I'm just saying. So we had to give Beyonce that. Regardless if you're a fan or not, regardless if you're a fan but not Beehive, and Beehive, y'all can stop just coming for someone like Dionne Warwick, because as I mentioned earlier, she doesn't care. But all right, so I want to talk about being prepared and just, and this is just for anything, because with everything that has gone on in these last 3 to 4 weeks, and it's been a lot, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But one of the things that recently happened was my car, which I just bought January 1st of last year. It had been running fine. It was a brand new car. And when did this happen? This happened Wednesday. So I was working from home Wednesday. I went out to go get something to eat for lunch. I was going to Piata. Luckily, I didn't pre-order because I turned on my car and I was backing up and it was making this rattling noise. And I was really confused. I was like, what the hell is going on with this? So I turned the car off, turned it back on, and it was doing it even louder. I was pissed. So what I did was I immediately called AAA and I had them tow the car to the place where I got it from, the dealership. I called them and let them know that I was sending my car up there and that I would be there after work. I wasn't going to drive it though because I didn't know what the heck was going on. So luckily, the tow truck driver, when I called AAA and the tow truck driver called me back and said that he was going to be, running a little late. He got caught up on a job and he probably wouldn't be there till about like 2:45. And I was like, well, that's cool because I get off at 3 o'clock and, can I just ride with you? He was like, oh, definitely. That's fine. So, and mind you, I knew this tow truck driver because it was someone who I know who took the call because they saw my name. So I was cool. But anyway, what I'm talking about being prepared is, to make a long story short, something happened to my engine. And it wasn't anything that I did. It was something that came loose and something fell off within, inside the car. I still don't know what it is. I really don't care. they kept the car overnight to try to see if they could fix it, that they could do something. They worked on it the rest of that evening. I think they closed at midnight. And then they worked on it that morning, Thursday morning, until they were just like, we don't know what the heck this is, how this happened, anything like that. And you could tell it was just like, it wasn't something that like got broken off. It wasn't something that got hit, anything like that. It just came off. So this was a manufacturer error. So therefore, y'all are going to take this car back. My warranty's not even up. I haven't even used anything on my warranty. The car looks basically brand new still. So what's going to happen is y'all are going to get me out of this car and I'm going to get something else. That's how that worked. And I say this to say, just be prepared for anything. Anything can happen. Anything can happen financially. Anything can happen with your vehicle. Anything can happen. You know, our neighbors to the south of us in Dayton, they didn't know that this tornado was going to, you know, inconvenience so many people and destroy so many lives and all this other stuff. You know, they didn't know that. You know, I mean, it's just like you have to be prepared for anything nowadays. And I mean, this is period, but I'm speaking about these days. But all in all, I did end up getting a new car. They worked with me on that because they couldn't figure it out. They could not figure it out, anything like that. And plus, the car looked brand new still. So all they're going to do is they're going to replace the engine and put it right back on that lot. That's exactly what they're going to do. And y'all go right on ahead. But I wasn't going to get a new engine. I wasn't going to get any of that because I barely had this car for a year and a half when it happened. And this is what, and because of a manufacturer error or whatever they called it, I'm not going to get new parts like that put in a brand new car this soon, unless it was something that I did. So there's that. But always protect yourself. Always be prepared for anything, because anything can hit you. There are so many things that financially, emotionally, physically, we're not prepared for. And you just have to keep your guard up. I guess that's what I could say. You have to keep your guard up, and you have to not really get worked up over certain things. That's why I say be prepared. Before, I would have flipped out. You know, I didn't flip out. I was calm. I was just like, okay, we're going to get this together. They want to work with me. We're going to get this together. And plus, I have a long-standing relationship with this dealership. I used to lease with them for years before I purchased my car last year. So it all worked out in the end. It did. But it was still just like, oh my goodness, I wasn't ready for this. And I thought it was going to have to be something that maybe I did, or maybe it wasn't covered in the warranty. So I was freaking out a little bit, but I remained calm until I found out what they found or what they had to say. And they're a very good, reputable dealership when it comes to dealerships and service departments. I only had one issue with them over the years, and it was with one guy who tried to scare me into getting a brand new tire when I could just get the tire plugged. And he was talking about, oh, your tire's going to blow and all this other stuff, thinking that I was just stupid. I was going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you almost $200 for one tire when I can get it plugged and get it fixed later on. You know what I mean? You just have to, I'm just a much calmer person now. I don't let things bother me. And this is a prime example of where I've just learned to be prepared for anything. So luckily, everything worked out. And that's what we have to do. We have to just assess the situation and try not to blow up, because it could have went all the way wrong. Because with basically a brand new car, and I didn't do anything with it, I barely drove the bitch, you know, as much as I've drove cars before, because I work from home 3 days a week. And I mean, I just really don't go anywhere except for maybe shopping, over a friend's house, or I'll drive it and park it somewhere. I'll be downtown or Easton, wherever. So I'm not really like driving all around. The car hadn't even been out of town yet. Nothing should have happened to this car. Now, things happen, but nothing should have happened to this car the way that it did. But as I mentioned, everything worked out, thank God. But let's try to just be ready for anything, and be ready so that you won't be stressed out and you won't blow up and make the situation worse than what it can be. Not necessarily what it is, because we're always better off than somebody else, but just what it can be. So let me just talk about where I've been for the last few weeks since the last podcast that I put out, which, yeah, that was a while ago. And y'all know that I've been wanting to do a podcast every week, but a lot hit me at one time and I just had to take a break. I had to take a break from the podcast, from writing, just from everything. I just wasn't mentally there to do my best. And that's all I'm going to want to do is my best. So no dramatics. Let's just keep it real. So the first thing that happened was one morning. Now, this was about a month ago. It was a Monday morning and I just woke up not feeling right. I still don't know what it was about. I don't know why I felt that way. I was fine all weekend. I had no issues, nothing like that. Had a pretty good weekend. And at first I just thought it was just, a case of the Mondays and I didn't want to go in, but I didn't feel right. And it wasn't like a sickly feeling. It was just like I just felt mentally drained. And I don't know where that came from. I had never had this happen before. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to call off today. Maybe I'm just still tired and I'm just going to call off today and just rest. Took the day off. And then like the rest of the day, I just sat in my office pretty much and I was going to get some work done. I was going to work on the next podcast, do some writing. I was like, well, since I'm off work, since I'm not mentally there for work, let me see if there's something else I could do. That didn't help either. I sat here in this office and just watched Netflix and that didn't even keep my attention all the time. So, it was the weirdest thing. I felt like that all day Monday. Then I was like, okay, maybe I'll feel better tomorrow, get ready to go to work. Same thing. I still woke up feeling the same exact way. I just can't explain it. But I just wasn't there. So I took Tuesday off too. And then the rest of the week I worked from home. So I was good that way. I don't know if it was just that I just didn't feel like dealing with people or I don't know what it was. But as the week went on, I felt a little better and I was just drained. I was just mentally drained and I was even getting more drained because I didn't know what the hell was going on. So it was just a lot of emotions up and down. Then the following week, later on that week, it happened the same week as my baby brother's graduation. He graduated from West Virginia University. We went down there that Friday to watch his graduation. And I was fine. It was just like I felt good. I was still a little but I wasn't about to take away from his moment by acting an ass or anything like that just because I didn't feel good. So, that was like an up and down, well, I should say a down then up week, because I was so happy, so proud of him for graduating. And shout out to all the graduates, the class of 2009 on every level. Congratulations to all the students on their promotion to the next grade, next year, whatever. And then the following week, I got news that a longtime friend of mine, I'm talking about long time to early elementary school, like I met him when he was in kindergarten and I was in first grade. And then a few years later, we ended up moving in a house like 3 doors down from him. So we grew up together. We were seriously like brother and sister. And he was just the best guy ever. And he had been in the hospital for months. And at one point, it seemed like he was improving. And then just all of a sudden, his health started going back down again. This week, the week that he ended up passing away, his health started declining and they were trying to figure out what to do and all this other stuff. So they made the decision that Saturday to put him in hospice and he ended up passing away that Sunday morning. So that was just like crazy. And it was one of those things like when you heard that his health was declining and there really wasn't anything else that could be done, you prepare yourself for stuff like that. But when it happens, you just don't know. And like I mentioned, this was one of my oldest friends ever. And of course, when you become adults, you don't see each other all the time. You don't communicate almost on a daily basis. You don't do that. It'd probably have been months since I had talked to him before he went in the hospital. But every time we would, see each other or just reach out to each other just to check on, I would see how his family was doing, how his kids were doing, his fiance, he would check, on me and everything. It was just one of those friendships where you could just pick back up, like you had been talking every day. So that was crazy. Then I started taking on more responsibility at work. So that was draining me mentally. So after work, I just didn't want to really do anything. I just wanted to just come home and just watch Netflix, or I just wanted to go out somewhere just to take my mind off of work. That was a lot going on. Then lastly, my car. which it ended up working out, but it was still a shock to the system because this just happened out the blue with my car. I didn't know that this was going to happen, but as I mentioned, I had to mentally prepare myself because so many things were happening around this time, and I just needed a break. I just needed a break from everything. I didn't want to feel like I had any deadlines. I didn't feel like I, had to do something. I just needed some time for me. So I was like, well, I'm just going to take a few weeks off. A few weeks ended up turning into a month pretty much, but it was well needed. And I suggest for people, if you can, I know everybody can't, but try to take some alone time. And I know it's easier said than done from somebody like me. We all need it. Just try to find a way to have, even if it's just like a half hour of solitude to yourself. We all definitely need that, and it does help your psyche. It really does. But I'm feeling better. Hopefully everything will get back on track. I won't have any more of those depression spells, whatever the heck it was. I still don't know to this day what it was, but I'm back, girl, for now. So let's just keep it going. So that's what's been going on with me for the past month. So that's our show for this week. And I want to take the time, as always, to thank each and every one of you for listening, for being patient on me coming back after being gone for so long. But as I just mentioned, the break was needed. As always, you can listen to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Spotify, and Stitcher. And don't forget, you can also listen to it on my website, DannieBSpeaks.com, where it's right there on the front page. There's a description of the episode in the body of the blog. And also check me out over there for just any kind of stories, any kind of opinions, ideas that I have that other people have. Going to get back writing soon on that, but there's plenty of things to catch up on DannieBSpeaks.com as well as the podcast. If you have anyone or anything that you'd like me to endorse, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback for the podcast, hit me up at my email, DannieBSpeaks@gmail.com. So to everyone, have a wonderful, safe, productive week, and I'll check you out next time. Peace.